Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Oh, hey, we got Igor. Uh,
Yeah, first timer.
nice. It's always the first time. You take a little bit, then you're hooked. That is our policy.
Got it.
Good morning, Casey.
Good morning and good evening, afternoon to wherever you guys are. I know Lance's evening. Looking like a cold, cloudy morning in San Francisco today.
You need to be more specific about saying what cold is to you in San Francisco.
It's probably no warmer than 56 Fahrenheit. If it was 62 Fahrenheit, it would be a scorcher.
Wow. Not even room temperature is a scorcher? Man.
Yeah, it's weird how weather works here. We wake up every morning, we ask our Google Assistant what the weather's going to be.
Oh, Zoom doesn't like weather talk.
Yeah. Or the Google Assistant just was like, yeah, no more bandwidth for you. All right, we got a couple of people. I guess it's time to get this party started. So, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. If you're watching us live, this is the Calico Community Meeting. We're going to talk about everything Calico. We do have a community member today, Igor. He's going to share uh, his experience with Calico, tell us a little bit about how he's using our solution, what are the things that he likes, what are the things that he doesn't like. If by any chance you want to participate, you have usually what's it called? Recommendations, and there are things that you like and dislike. Join the community meeting. Links are available in our GitHub, github.com Project Calico Community. And we're always in the Slack, lurking somewhere. Just messages and we get you started. Now, so recently we released 331, which is a patch for some of the stuff that we might have missed or some of the stuff that needed a little bit of tweaking. I guess the most notable change there was, wait, where is the release note? The tiered pol actually that was from 330. So there was a change in the tiered policy notes names, which instead of like having the default, we got Casey back. Instead of having the default, which was similar to not having anything, just you didn't have to write anything if you created a policy without any names at the without any prefix, the Calico policy would calculate it as default. Now you're sort of have to like write the prefix. So it would be default dot whatever policy name that you want to write. That was pretty notable because there was a huge banner on top of the release note. There were a couple of bug fixes in eBPF. Sort of, it wasn't a problem, but we changed the way that we attach eBPF programs. So instead of like having the old way, we tweaked the code and it's now faster, I would like to say. Usually people think about faster when think eBPF, so it is faster now. Um, the, there was also a little bit of tweaking in Calico API. So Calico API is a pod that runs in your environment if you like. You just create a resource for the operator named API server, and it deploys the Calico API server. It allows you to interact with unique Calico resources using kubectl. On top of everything that I said, we also changed a little bit of, our fault. So we changed most of the images that we were using. Instead of Docker, we went to Koi, so you wouldn't face any sort of limitation. But in there, there was a flannel image that is not gonna be published to Koi because flannel is, I guess, found of Docker. I know, but that was a pretty like little fix that we did. Not that important, but it's worth mentioning, even if we, mess up something, which happens. So, with that, I want to give the microphone to Igor. So Igor is going to share with us his experience with Calico. Hopefully, he's going to introduce himself and everything in between. Igor, are you ready?
Um, I'm not sure.
No worries.
Sure, let's try, I guess. Are you gonna like present the slides
I
or
can.
because I don't have any control of this meeting, but I'll just start with introducing myself. I joined Copart back in the day in 2016 as a DevOps engineer, and I was tasked to set up a Kubernetes cluster on-prem vanilla Kubernetes. I think it was like 1.5 or 1.6 back in those days. And I chose CoreOS and its tutorial that was available back then. And I think Calico was like the only choice maybe, or the primary choice as a CNI for Kubernetes. And ever since then, basically makes it, I don't know, 8 years. We've been sticking with Calico and basically followed the journey together from the basic flannel Calico setup to eBPF data plane. And lately we tried WireGuard, but it didn't work the way we expected it to work. But anyway, we are still sticking with Calico. We haven't really tried any other CNIs because, like, why would you drop something that's working perfectly? And yeah, we switched to eBPF in around October 2020. So we've got pretty extensive experience with the help of this wonderful community and Calico engineers, troubleshooting multiple things in Slack. Just it's incredible. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. We've got a few clusters, 9 to be particular, with slightly over than 700 nodes and 15,000 pods. And counting, we are growing, new applications, new microservices every day. So that's a long story short. Yeah, and a few drivers for using Calico. As I said, it's one of the first that was available in the open source space. It was part of the tutorial, and it was really simple to install and just spin it up, ready to go. I think it's still right now. Just use the operator, which we haven't used, but we stick to the manifest install. And as I said, I love the support from you guys, and the documentation is great. So it's pretty clear to me. Like when I need to do something, I just open it up. And if it's something is not clear, I just reach out to you guys in Slack. A little bit of wish list. I think we should keep supporting the manifest install because folks like us, we just stick with Calico from so many years ago, and there are some customizations I tried to use operator. It just told me like, no, you don't do it this way, you do it this way, and I had to like redo the things. But I was doing it mainly to extract the manifest that I need for a Goldman and Whisker. So it was like a test cluster. So I just adjusted all that. But I'm kind of a little bit terrified to try it on actual like production clusters. Yeah, and that issue is like a blocker for us. The security team is like willing us to introduce encryption between nodes and pods, all that traffic, but there is certain limitations to that, I guess, which is described in that issue linked to that slide. And that's about it, I think.
Thank you. Well, we got Casey and Lance here, and we have the issue number. So I'm gonna, make them go and figure out how this is gonna happen. But yeah.
Yeah, thanks
Uh,
for sharing that story. It's always fun to hear from our side how people get involved with Calico and to hear what's been helpful for a long time for you. So I'm glad. And I'll definitely check out that issue. Just wrote it down.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
try
always good
to
to like
live solve
put
it here,
names
but
to names to faces and everything. Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Really.
yeah, the manifest-based install, I think we don't intend to deprecate it, but we definitely have like the operator as our primary target at the moment. And it provides us an easy way to implement things like a default security posture and seamless upgrades. Did you, curious, did you raise an issue about the sort of complaints it gave you when you tried to switch from manifest to operator?
Not really. I mean,
Mhm.
it was more like the path to the CNI directories, not what was expected by the
Right.
operator. It was like I had annotations on Calico pods for Prometheus metric scraping. It's like, I don't like that. I was like, why? Okay. Things like that. They're minor, but I think at some point I lost control to the cluster because of something. I don't remember what, but while I was trying to do all that, so I had to like reboot the nodes on my test cluster. So I was like,
Yeah, the operator is definitely more opinionated and forceful about
exactly.
the way that it installs things, and it tries to reject anything that it doesn't understand, because obviously if it just went forward, you might lose some features or break something. Both of those that you mentioned, the path and the annotations, seem like things that we should be able to carry forward, so that I would probably just classify those both as bugs in our migration logic. So I've taken a note of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was too bad, but I think it's more suitable for new cluster installation rather than migration. But once again, maybe it's possible to make it like a seamless migration if it was more like flexible in certain terms.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah,
probably
it's
work if you want to work with that, we can do that, because spinning up a new cluster, I have the manifest that I installed, which I later try to convert to migrate, and I could like be a guinea pig for that if you want me to.
yeah, if you're willing to help with that, it's the sort of thing I'd like to do. I mean, part of what has been or was challenging for us with the manifest is that they are infinitely customizable, and every user, every cluster makes their own adjustments to it. And so when it comes back to us for supporting that or users hitting issues, it's much harder to sort of get a lay of the land and understand what we're dealing with. But at the same time, like we can't, every cluster is different, so we can't force the exact same configuration on every cluster. And walking that line is something I would like to make a little bit better. So if we can get it to support all of the tweaks and adjustments that you need, then I think that would be a pretty good step.
Yeah, I agree. It's just something in me somewhere down there. It's just writing something that is changing something on its own, like you're not control of it. Especially this like
Yeah,
core thing of a cluster, it's like a little bit terrifying.
yeah, I
But
totally
yeah,
get that. I mean, the flip side is that uh, like we've seen time and time again, people break their clusters because the manifests were modified in some way, and then they forgot to apply that modification to their new upgrade, and so it can cut both ways a little bit.
yeah, yeah. That's why I'm kind of all in for both methods of installation. Like if you're an inexperienced user, you don't have any experience with Calico, just go with the operator and just do
Yeah.
what you need to. And if you are like more into the internals, you're interested in how every component is installed and what it has, all the knobs and tweaks and everything. There is a manifest for you, like, but you can put it like a label on it, like do it on your own risk. If you break it, like it's your problem, basically. But yeah, I mean, when I converted, the only difference I saw was like the MTLS stuff. The rest is like the same pretty much. And everything worked except the Whisker backend part. So because I think because of the attempt to optimize it, or I don't know what the reason was behind it, but the same TLS certs and keys, they were used for both serving traffic and authenticating itself with other components. So basically, all components except Whisker backend can work without MTLS. But if you can't start Whisker backend without TLS at all, and if you start, it uses it for connecting to Goldmain, which if you don't use in Goldmain doesn't work. So you have to, if you enable it in Goldmain, you have to enable it in Calico Node and Typha because the same sort is reused again. So I was like, okay, now I have to do it for like everything. It was kind of time consuming, but once scripted, it's not a problem at all.
Yeah, I mean that's
But I don't
definitely the
know if
sort of
it
thing
was
that
intended. I don't know if it was intended actually. I
it
think
was
it wasn't.
definitely intended that we like we have an internal security posture of just requiring MTLS on new new components and new connections within the cluster. And so
Like Goldman, that's the thing. Goldman doesn't. Goldman can work, and it worked. Everything worked except the Whisker backend for some reason. That's why I was like, something is not right here. Something doesn't add up at all. So I don't know if you want to look into that or not.
yeah, I'll take a look. I suspect it's just Goldman, yeah, allows running without the certs, but our like the operator always installs those certs. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, once I got everything, it's working now, and I keep everything in my queue system as it used to be like back in the day, and
Yeah.
it looks good to me. But once again, I just another thing to take care of, like the rotating the certs if you want to. But if you generate it on prem for yourself, you can make them 100 years, valid for, but once again, if it's scripted, it's not a big deal. I just rotate them once in a while. But yeah, that's all I have to say about the new version. And I think someone said about the Calico policy that you need to add a tier as like a prefix in the name. I didn't do it.
So for 330.1, you don't need to do that.
Oh, it's gonna be next release.
No, it was a blip. It was a bug that was introduced. So
Oh,
um,
got it.
you will need it if you start using additional tiers beyond the default one, just as a sort of uniqueness identifier. Within the default tier, you can just create policies, whatever name you want.
Okay, got it. Yeah, we control everything. We manage everything as DevOps. We don't really allow anyone else to control it. So it's like everything is one tier.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Any other questions from the gallery? If not,
I
just
have a
thanks again. Oh,
suggestion. Maybe
yeah.
we could create an operator that migrates manifest for the operator.
You say that as if we haven't thought about it.
Right.
It's operators all the way down. There was I mean, there's OpenShift, I think, has an operator, or it did for some point. I can't keep track of the progression of that. Well, cool. Thanks again, Igor. I missed the little bit at the beginning. I don't know if we covered all the release stuff, but it sounded like we did. Any internet troubles over here.
Yeah, I just talked about 331. I didn't talk about the new ones that are coming.
Uh-huh. There's I mean, just worth mentioning that I think we've got 3 patch releases coming up in the next month or two. Pretty standard stuff, just CVE patches, updating Kubernetes libraries to stay on top of that. And then Calico 3.31 is still pretty early days. I think we have a tentative loose scope for that. So there's some things we're working on there around host endpoints, getting additional IPs from the node, so that if you're using auto host endpoints, you're not limited to just the IP addresses that Kubernetes knows about, just typically one IPv4 and one IPv6 address. Ability to specify if you're using BGP, a local AS number per peer instead of globally per node. Some good BPF enhancements, so bringing the QoS controls to the eBPF data plane, as well as streamlining the install process a bit. And then also hoping to bring the NF tables data plane to GA. kubeproxy went GA in the last Kubernetes release, I think. So we're staying on top of that. Back to you, Reza.
I need to find my Zoom. All right. So with that, I'm hoping to show a demo, but demo gods are never, uh, not only demo gods, no gods are on my side. So just give me a second to figure out. All right. So, I did another Calico Live the other day. It was about Gateway API. So we added a new feature to Calico 330, which is called Gateway API. It allows you to, wait a second. It allows you to actually run, so do not disturb, and my desktop. Hopefully you guys can see my desktop.
I
All
can.
right. Nice. So GitHub, frozen process, and somewhere here there's a Calico Live. So in the session, I talked about how people can use Gateway API with EKS. The idea was instead of using Ingress controller, which is sort of getting no more updates from the community because they're moving to Gateway API standard, how you can actually use the bits and pieces that we provide for you to use the new standard. Now, that being said, I only talked about how you can run it in EKS, but I hinted, well, it is possible to run it locally if you want to learn. So for that, there is a new thing called Calico Gateway API examples, and there is a local, ooh, there is a local sort of um, instructions how you can run it. Now, that being said, right now I'm using, sorry, I'm suffering from Mac, not my usual Linux. So let's see what happens. Uh, I'm always up to see some new stuff. All right. So first of all, you would need K3D. K3D is a local sort of Kubernetes provider-ish. It runs Kubernetes as a container. And the flavor of Kubernetes is K3S. So it's snappy, it's minimal, it just runs quite fast. Now, I'm using K3S, then I'm going to, after my Kubernetes cluster is operational, I'm going to install Calico using the operator because a lot of people today said they like the operator. Okay, after that, let me just put this aside. All right, after having the operator, you basically have one of us who work in Tigera in your cluster, and you can actually tell us what to do, how to configure Calico for you. And we would do it, and we make sure it always runs as smoothly as it should. So for this particular demo, I'm going to use a couple of things. One is I'm going to tell it, well, use 192.168. If you remember, this was the CIDR that I used in my in my K3S command. So my cluster CIDR is 192.168. This is something that you need to also tell Calico. In some instances, if you're using kube or using EKS, it can actually auto detect it. But since there's like a lot of flavors for what you can type in there, it's usually best to tell it if I'm using Calico IPAM, the IP management, here is the IP address that I want to use. The other thing is NAT outgoing. It allows any pod that is part of this IP pool to have access to the internet. You can obviously change it later, but Pretty standard, nothing spectacular. And I also want the API server because I don't have Calico Cattle here. And API server allows me to interact with unique Calico um, resources using kubectl. Now, that being said, after you have the operator in your cluster, you can use a Tigera status command to figure out if the installation is going, if it's not going, and what is the verdict. Now, after you're done with that, we're gonna install the application for this demo. So if you have worked with microservices, you know there's like a lot of them everywhere. So this microservice demo from Google is one of the good ones because it just has a lot of pods that could be just one pod, but you know, microservices, things are always scattered. So it sort of gives you a better look. It's sort of like a realistic look of how an application would run in your cluster. So I believe it's a deployment. So yeah, all right. After this is done, you would get a bunch of pods, bunch of services, and because I'm using K3S in this example, the load balancer is actually tied in to K3S. So it would give me IP addresses, which I could sort of mimic what happened in EKS. Now, the thing that I talked about in the other session was, well, usually we use HTTP. That is one of the things that is like more associated with Ingress controllers. They tend to do HTTP more. It's like their main purpose. You could use vendor-specific things to make your Ingress controller to publish HTTPS. But again, it depends on the Ingress controller, the project that you're using, and there's like a lot of annotations involved, which we don't want to get into. Now, that being said, one of the things that we need to do is because I'm using my own local environment, there are not that many ports that I can allocate. So first of all, I'm going to delete this service, which comes with the manifest, because later I'm going to use port 80 to show you a little bit about Calico Gateway API. Next, because I want to secure my Gateway API deployment, I'm going to install the Cert Manager. Cert Manager is another open source and CNCF backed project. It literally manages certs in your Kubernetes cluster. So one thing to note here is Cert Manager doesn't come with, sorry, I cannot do two things. I have a simple processor, single thread processor. So one of the things that you need to do is right now, in Cert Manager, you need to actually enable integration for Gateway API. By default, it is not enabled. So basically, in the container, which runs the Cert Manager in the deployment, you need to add the enable gateway API command. It literally looks like this. In the container, in the arguments, add enable gateway API. You can use Helm for it, you can use Vim, whatever, but you need to do this for Cert Manager to be able to pick up your changes. Now, when you do that, it will hopefully run. Come on, demo gods. Where was the edit? Nope, it looks correct. Actually,
What do the logs say?
describe, yeah. What does the log says? Oh, describe pod. All right, I need to copy before I paste. So copy, paste.
Well, I need to do a kubectl logs on it.
Yeah. Where is it? Oh, Docker
Or just
doesn't
do,
need.
yeah, you should just do kubectl logs -n, give it the namespace, the pod. Same
What
thing you
is
just copied.
what is the namespace? It's cert manager. What do you want?
You should still have the namespace and name copied from your last
Oh,
copy paste.
are you looking for the deployment
Nope,
logs?
on the pod.
Oh, on the pod. Wait. L logs.
Command V, I should already have it. Yeah.
Whoop. Oh,
Yeah,
go
so it's
away, Apple.
complaining that the Gateway API CRDs are not present.
Oh, should be. Oh, wait a second. Did I forget which version of Cert Manager to use?
Have you installed Gateway API on this cluster yet?
Oh, that is a good note. So before running Gateway, before installing Cert Manager, you need to do this little bit of trick, which allows you to run Gateway API. Then you can integrate with Gateway API. All right. It's a good thing to remember. And wait, why my codes are like this? All right. We'll figure it out later. All right, now you should be roll up, start, and this thing, deployments. Uh, it's Mac. All right, everything runs because you enabled Gateway API before Cert Manager. That is the moral of the story. So anyway, in order to enable Gateway API, what you do is you create an operator manifest for Gateway API with the name default. The kind is Gateway API. After you do this, the operator will create a bunch of things. Two of them are these two.
And
One of them is this one. Sorry, go ahead.
which version of the CRDs is it gonna install?
For Gateway API.
Yeah. There's like multiple. I think we've started with like 1.0, now it's 1.2, I think. So they are like improving it, adding things, fixing things. And there is a
Oh,
version of CRDs itself.
I see you're talking about which version of Gateway API.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
I suspect we're just using the latest that was available when 3.30 came out. These will be the ones that we run our CI and verification against, and we'll keep those up to date as new releases are
Got it.
shipped.
Got it. Probably 1.2 then.
Yep.
I can give you the exact version after I'm done with this, but I saw it in our internal Slack. People were talking about like updating it, so
Yeah, I
that
actually
would
thought you
be.
would need to install it like the official way, not through the operator. And I was like, interesting. So
Mm,
you kind of tell the operator to go there and grab them or something, or do they like put them in the
no,
box?
it is included with the stuff that we have. So when you do Gateway API, when you enable Gateway API, it actually has the things that it requires to put in there, because if it sends you to somewhere else or fetches it from somewhere else, then the compatibility might be a little bit different. For instance, there are new things in the new release of Gateway API which we may or may not support, then it would be a little bit difficult to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, so you basically package them, like you just
Yep,
grab them from the official source and package them into the operator
that is
release or
correct.
something. Got it. Okay.
All right,
Sorry. Go
no
on.
worries. Um, so after you have the cert manager enabled, and hopefully you have enabled Gateway API before that, you can create some CA stuff. Now, here I'm creating a cluster issuer as my certificate authority. I sort of tell it to be self-signed, so not by the name, but with the spec. But I sort of need to know this is the self-signer, so I put the name self-signed issuer. After I've done this, I need to create, I actually need to do the ritual of creating certificates, which is CSRs, certificate requests, keys, private keys, certificate authority cert, and certificate authority key. Now, everything that I said will happen in these two steps. Basically, it creates the certificate authority with this common name, those sort of things, and the algorithm, what it needs to use, blah, blah, blah. So after you create these resources, what you can do is you can go ahead and actually create the Gateway API resource. The gateway for Gateway API resource. And it looks something like this. There are a couple of things to note here. The kind is gateway. Name is important, obviously. And the annotation is also important because I'm telling my gateway resource to use the cert manager annotation self-signed issuer for the certificates that it needs to implement in my gateways. So what are my gateways? These listeners are my gateways. So I have two listeners or two gateways. One is HTTP and the other one is HTTPS. These names are also important because later on we're going to use them in the routes, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So you also have something called hostname that is for DNS. If hopefully you're using DNS and you want a certificate, that would be cheaper, actually free. But so you say what host names should be tied to that gateway. If a request comes in and doesn't have the DNS, it will not resolve through the gateway that is associated here. And also, what is the TLS ritual that should happen? There are a couple. So there is terminate and there is pass through. So terminate basically if the communication comes in, terminates it, and establishes a new SSL-based connection. And pass-through goes like, I'm gonna put a blinder on my eyes, and whatever happens, happens. On top of that, we say where our certificate needs to be created. That being said, after you do this, you should have a gateway resource. And your gateway resource should have a bunch of things in it. Now, these are the things that we talked about, but something that is worth noting is if you run into any issues, get the gateway with the OYAML, and these conditions are the statuses that are happening to the gateway. So if there's like any problem, any certificate problem, you could sort of troubleshoot it there. You can also, I believe it's called certificate request. You can also get the certificate request if you want to know what is happening to your certificate, if it's issued, not issued, those sort of things. Now, that being said, we have the gateway and traffic can hit it, but when the traffic is there, we don't have any path for it. So what we need to do is we need to create a path. Now, creating that is something that we do with the HTTP route. Now, since this is way bigger than what I can show you, let's just show it here and then debug what is happening. Hopefully, I don't have to enable Gateway API again. So the idea is you create HTTP route, and for each HTTP route, you say, all right, this namespace. You can create cross namespace HTTP routes. You just need to add a cross-reference resource. It's documented in our documentation. So if you come to docs.tigera and it's in networking. So here you would have how to, what's it called? How to do the, yeah, reference grants. So you create that for a cross-reference sort of access. Now, after you create that, you say, all right, what should happen or what gateway should be used for this HTTP route? As you can see, section name HTTP, if you remember, that was the HTTP name in the listener. And a gateway API name, well, which gateway I want to use and the namespace that they're in and the ports that they're operating and what should happen. So this is the part that you talk about which gateway, and this is the part where you talk about what should happen. So if traffic comes here, what I want to do is match everything to a 301 request header. So if somebody comes to HTTP, I want to redirect them to port 443 so they can use HTTPS. Now, this will happen regardless of what is our application doing. So basically, we created a redirect without changing anything in the code. Now, what happens for HTTPS users? If somebody comes to HTTPS using the host name that we have, then what they can do is they can actually use the same path, which is the home directory slash for HTTP, and they should be able to resolve to the service for front end. So wait a second. So if somebody comes in through Gateway API, we want to redirect them to the front end. Sounds straightforward, but apparently I need to change something in here. All right, so another HTTP redirect created. Okay. Oh, I had the HTTP redirect already. Okay. Now that this is done, you can check your HTTP routes here. And hopefully you should be able to do some curl. All right. So for curl, what I'm gonna do is, so everything is happening inside my local machine. I don't have a DNS name. What I do is I take the IP address of my Gateway API, assign it to uh, a environment variable. Then I use curl in a little funky way. So I say talk to secure demo local, but try to connect to secure demo local using the IP address that I'm telling you. It's one of the fun things that what's it called? Curl does. And hopefully I didn't forget to execute any other commands here. Right. Okay. Got my gateway. And I got my HTTP routes. So just a second.
You're so close.
Yeah, I know. It's a gateway name. I bet. What is my gateway name? It's Calico Demo Gateway. Calico Demo Gateway. It's in default. It's in default. What did I miss? What did I miss? Oh, no, not this one. What is this command? So I got Gateway API running. I got the command. I got the certificate. All right, we'll do something else. Kubectl get SVC kubectl port forward and let's do this. SVC and forward 3, forward 3. Oh, there is maybe something running. Yeah. Now, hopefully, I can find my browser and do localhost 443. And do HTTPS. Okay. There is something wrong with my front end. That is why it didn't work. So default front end port 80. And that's what you get for using an Apple to demo stuff, I guess.
Well, it may, I don't know, it may not be a good use of time to try and debug it here,
All right.
but
Anyway, at this point, everything is ready. It just go through all the commands. Hopefully you're on Linux and it works. For Mac, I will just push an update what you need to do in order to see the actual HTTP header. Yeah.
That's good. Thanks, Reza.
You're welcome.
Cool. Well, that was a pretty full meeting. Any questions or other topics?
Yeah, I have a question. Hi, Igor. Is Igor
Hi.
the MTV?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of meet you face to face because we've been talking for, I think, years now.
Yeah.
Online, so it's kind of good to put a face behind a name. I'm glad that you reporting all the issues and that you helping us so much improving the data plane. And yeah, looking forward to working more with you. I know that you
Yeah,
have
likewise.
couple
Yeah.
nice issues that we should tackle. And you probably talked about it today, but so in general, how's your experience with the EVPF data plane or just your general feel, except that you can't use the whisker now because it's operator only.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's been actually fantastic since we were able to drop that Q proxy and just replace everything with eBPF. Despite it creates some kind of invisible layer where it's not that simple to troubleshoot in case you are not available or it happens, like off hours, something happens. You need to inspect if somebody, did something to Calico policies or something is just broken for some reason. It used to be like just like IP tables or something. You could just look into it, see what counters are increasing or something, or throw in like allow any policy or something. But with the eBPF, you need to use tools for that, special tools, and not many are really aware of them. And basically, I would recommend having like a cheat sheet somewhere, like what commands to run.
Yeah. I actually gave a talk on it, I think 2 years ago at some KubeCon. But yeah, I feel your pain. And if yeah, it's a great topic, and I think that's one of the things that kind of makes the adoption a bit more complicated. If you have any time an idea like, hey, this is what would help me in troubleshooting, this is what would be a good addition from like user's perspective, don't hesitate to raise an issue that would be like a recommendation or enhancement. We can discuss it there. It'd be valuable for us. Yeah, and when you touch on the Q proxy, it's actually a very, very interesting topic. And why dropping Q proxy is and replacing it with our kind of own Q proxy is an advantage for you.
Well, I see it as having less components, the better. Like the fewer things that can break. So, and it used to be like very problematic with having a large amount of services and pods, especially with the IP tables approach. And it used to be like the only option there was. Then I remember having like IPVS, which kind of elevated that pain, but still there were some problems with that as well. Like it would not really work, or it would not really update in a timely fashion. Like it would kind of lag behind anyway.
Right.
So
Yeah,
when we tried
years back, a couple of years back, Q-Proxy was definitely a bottleneck. You got too many services. Thanks to Casey, we can have the NF tables Q-Proxy these days. So that would be the only issue.
Right, but
But yeah, that wasn't
yeah,
available back then. That's yeah, that was one of the motivations before Kubernetes actually accepted NFT tables. Is J now, right?
yeah, we didn't try that anyway, so
Yeah. We
like,
are
why would you
at,
do it if you have eBPF working?
Yeah. We're at 10 o'clock now, so I know a bunch of us have to drop off. But yeah, thanks again for joining, everybody, and we will see you on the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Really
Good
appreciate it.
meeting you.
Bye.